Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Katie Pavlich, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. You are looking live at Capitol Hill, where we are awaiting a Senate Foreign Relations Committee vote on the nomination of Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State. No Democrat on the panel supports his nomination. Neither does Republican Rand Paul, meaning Pompeo won't have enough support for a favorable recommendation. But Majority Leader Mitch McConnell still intends to hold a full confirmation vote this week on the floor. 3 Senate Democrats so far have said they will back him: Manchin, Donnelly, and Heitkamp. The White House praised them, but blasted the, quote, pointless obstruction of the rest of their party.
When it comes to Director Pompeo, it is absolutely outrageous that he would not move through quickly. He's extremely qualified for the position. Not only is the White House, but all of America should be calling on the Senate to actually do their job, do what they are required and expected to do, and that is to help government function and to help on the safety and the security of our country. And I think, frankly, for particular members of Congress, that it's very hard for them to justify voting in favor of someone like John Kerry and not following suit and voting in favor of Mike Pompeo.
The president adding, hard to believe obstructionists may vote against Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State. The Dems will not approve. Hundreds of good people need more Republicans. All right, so Kimberly, West Point guy, Harvard guy, Army officer, congressman, and CIA director, incredible credentials. And Sarah Sanders made a great point. I mean, Kerry was confirmed. I think only 2 Republicans voted against him, 2 or 3. Same thing with Hillary for Secretary of State. What's going on here?
Yeah, this is an extraordinary individual who has an incredible background, history, qualifications, dedication to the country. Steadfastly has proved himself to be, more than worthy of this position. In fact, we're lucky to have him. However, you have the Democrats just completely with the wool pulled over their eyes because they only see obstruction. They just want to be able to step in the way of a fine American that should be serving this country and continuing in this capacity. And sadly, just out of pure politics, there is no other good answer or motivation. They are objecting to him. Why? To try to prevent President Trump from putting through his agenda. And this is despite the fact that President Trump has made tremendous inroads in foreign policy and national security, showing strength and resolve in Syria, showing strength and resolve with Iran, showing strength and resolve in North Korea, really making a manifest change of order that no other administration has been able to do to quite be able to kind of figure that situation out and cause this course correction in national security history. Nevertheless, this is someone that he needs to be able to continue forward with this mission, to be able to do this, to serve the CIA, and now can do this with in the State Department, which is sorely in need of some, structure, some discipline, some focus for all the people that are hardworking there to get some order and put it in place. So what are we doing? We're delaying this. Who is this hurting? The country and the American people.
It is, and I don't understand their reasoning. As Kimberly said, it has to do with politics. We researched it. Dianne Feinstein says, I sense a certain disdain for diplomacy. I don't even know what that means. How is she sensing that?
Well, I mean, first, comparing John Kerry to Pompeo, that's like comparing a stick of driftwood to an iPhone.
The driftwood again.
One is irrelevant, the other one you can do so many things with. This is a clash between adults and children. The children just burden the world with infantile tribalism. It's a team sport. This is a team sport thing. With Pompeo's involvement in North Korea, which is incredibly important, the Dems trying to block him and Rand Paul trying to block him, it's like trying during the Olympics, trying to take out your star teammate who's in the middle of something. They're trying to pull a Tanya Harding on Nancy Kerrigan because right now they are on the verge of something big, which is de-nuking North Korea. And what they want to do is play team sport politics.
God, my knee hurts just from talking about it.
Right? Never forget.
Yeah, why are you trying to pull a Nancy Kerrigan, Juan? Can you please explain, though, in all seriousness, the opposition to Mike Pompeo?
Oh, sure. I mean, you can start with Rand Paul, start with the Republican. I mean, that's the reason he won't get past the committee.
He didn't vote for him for CIA, did he?
Yeah, I'm just saying he's a Republican who is being very clear that he has a principled opposition to Mike Pompeo because he feels that Pompeo is indifferent to privacy concerns and has demonstrated this in the past, that he is more concerned with security and going at it in a flat way that might allow Americans' privacy and liberty to be infringed upon. And you can understand that from a conservative
I can
point of
from
view.
his perspective.
Yeah,
What about the Democrat perspective?
Well, I think for the Democrats, I mean, you may have seen, I think it was Senator Booker of New Jersey who asked him about his position on gays. And Pompeo was like, well, I don't know. You know, I don't approve of gay sexual behavior. And you have every right to say that. The question is whether or not that will then become part of American foreign policy, dealing with countries where gays are killed or persecuted.
The left never seemed to mind that before.
Actually,
Juan,
we just have some breaking news, and we're hearing that the senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, is a yes on Pompeo.
Well,
I
think that changes the equation.
He's watching the 5, Juan.
I hope so.
We convinced him.
Because Republicans have the majority on the committee. So if it's 11-10 and then you get all the Republicans backing him, he will get the support coming out of the committee. And actually, Donald Trump predicted this, said that he thought Rand Paul would, at the end of the day, come on board. But to finish my thought,
actually close with
you
Rand
have
Paul.
on Iran, the Iran deal, which is coming up very shortly in May.
Right.
You have Pompeo as a long time harsh critic of the deal. And also then in terms of dealing with North Korea. He has been a really hawkish person, and in combination with John Bolton, who said no objection to a first strike, I think it puts a lot of people in the attitude, as you described it, Jesse, that this guy's not about diplomacy. He's about running people over.
Well, hawkish on North Korea, I don't know where that's got us. You know, being a dove has kind of got us to where we are now, where they're on the verge of a nuclear weapon capable of hitting the United States.
Well, on the issue of diplomacy, Mike Pompeo has essentially already done the job of Secretary of State by going over and meeting with Kim Jong-un, right? I mean, he's been in the position, not officially, but he has done the diplomacy at the highest level possible when everybody's criticizing and saying that should be done at lower levels. Mike Pompeo is the guy who can get the job done essentially no matter what it is. He's done that throughout his history, at whatever position he's in. He's been successful at all of those professional responsibilities. He knows what it's like to be responsible for human life, what's at stake for the country. And this is an issue that has been severely politicized for the sake of being against the president, and Democrats want it both ways. They've been criticizing the Trump administration for destroying the State Department, for not having diplomats in place, for having a bunch of empty posts around the world, and yet the president has sent a number of nominations that have been obstructed around the world, and then you have him saying or nominating Mike Pompeo, who at his confirmation hearing said that he, as a priority, wanted to make sure that those posts were filled. So Democrats have to make a choice. You either are backing the State Department and national security by confirming Pompeo and allowing him to do the job to make sure those diplomats are in place, or you have to take a step back and understand that if you don't allow them to get into place to do the job for America, to represent our country in the interest of the United States, then you can't be criticizing on both of those levels.
And two papers which have been very critical of President Trump, the New York Daily News and USA Today, both editorialized in support of the confirmation. One of those reasons was because what they believe Pompeo is going to do is come in and re-energize the State Department at all levels. Kimberly, I want to play some sound. You touched on it earlier about some of the Democratic opposition and what's driving that among some of the senators. Let's listen to the senator from Arkansas, Cotton.
The Democrats, especially on the Foreign Relations Committee, are really engaged in shameful political behavior. 15 of them voted for Mike Pompeo last year to be the director of the CIA. Most of these Democrats don't have a problem with Mike Pompeo. They are still struggling to get over the election of Donald Trump in 2016, or frankly, they face elections this year in 2018, and they're afraid of scaring the MoveOn.org or Code Pink crowd. And it's really shameful behavior.
So this is a midterm situation for some of these Senate Democrats.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about here. It's just such a, political artifice. They're just really trying to push their agenda. They're talking about the midterm elections. They're trying to make this a, problematic situation for the president. But guess what? You're hurting the country. Again, when you really look at, your intentions, your motivations, and the outcome here, the end game, how is this going to in any way help the country move forward? This is somebody who's highly capable. He's not someone who's inflammatory or has any problem. I mean, Juan, you try to push back and say Rand Paul. Well, guess Rand Paul was like, yes.
Yeah, no, that's because you heard Juan.
Yeah, that's right.
He said, no,
he's like, I want to agree with Kimberly and not Juan. Yeah.
I would wonder though, this is all about team sport politics, which I think is going to go away soon because we're seeing these cracks in this prison of two ideas. And I wonder, it's like if this were a Democrat and we were on the verge of making the world safer, right? North Korea, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. Would you do this to the Democrats, or would you just want to take part in the win and say, I want to support this guy because we're going to change the world, rather than say, no, I'm going to burn the place down because he's a Republican?
Right.
I don't think that's the issue at all. I think the issue at hand is, do you normalize Trump's behavior in every case and say, if you disagree with him, oh, well, then people will say you're not a patriot, you're not a good... The fact is, the State Department has been totally dismantled. People are of low morale and hurt. We don't have diplomats in place. Wow. And then you say, well, but we're going to get Mike Pompeo. He will bring something back. So you got to give. I mean, come on. That's like blackmail.
Well, Juan, I think when you're trying to forge some peace in the peninsula,
and you made it about Trump
leading that overture, if you're not going to let him get out of committee on some sort of
this is about us.
Vote that's
people don't
partisanship.
People don't
right.
think
It's
it's a
send the
good
wrong
vote.
message to Little Rocket Man. And we're going to bring you guys the vote out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee as it comes in. Up next, the Nashville Waffle House shooting suspect is in custody. But before he was captured, the mayor was calling for gun control. Those details next.
This program.
A Fox News alert. The manhunt is over. Police in Nashville believe they have the Waffle House killer in custody. A citizen's tip led to the capture of 29-year-old suspect Travis Reinking today, arrested in a wooded area near his apartment this very afternoon. For more, let's go to Jonathan Seri, live in Antioch, Tennessee. Jonathan?
Yeah, good evening. Travis Reinking was arrested not far from the Waffle House where the early Sunday morning shooting took place, claiming 4 lives. A tip brought authorities to a wooded area behind an apartment complex. Detectives walked up on the suspect. He turned around. They recognized him immediately. They ordered him to hit the ground, and he obeyed without any violence. They say that they searched his backpack. They found a handgun inside along with some ammunition. He offered no statements to police other than to immediately request an attorney. They took him to a nearby hospital for evaluation. He was no stranger to law enforcement. In 2016, authorities in Tazewell County, Illinois, reported Reinking was delusional and claimed he was being stalked by singer Taylor Swift. And then the following year, he was arrested by Secret Service for refusing to leave a secure area near the White House. Well, after that, authorities seized his weapons, put them in the custody of his father. But police say the father later returned the weapons to his son, and for that reason, the father may also face some potential criminal charges. Back to you guys.
Jonathan, thank you very much. The conversation once again has turned to gun control in the wake of this new shooting. Here's the mayor of Nashville.
For a moment, let's be honest about what happened. Last night, innocent Nashvillians were terrorized by a man with an AR-15. Let's be honest. Some people see these weapons as having a purpose of terrorizing other people. It's happening too much. Enough is enough. We need comprehensive gun reform to address mass shootings, domestic shootings, accidental shootings, and homicides.
Mental illness is also at play here. The suspect is said to have been very unstable. Let me ask you, Greg, what do you make of this latest shooting and especially the mayor's comments?
I know the mayor has to make the right comments. I don't know if it was the right comment to make when an armed fiend is on the loose, because the only wise move is home defense. Because what we've just shown is that the police let everybody down on this one. They knew about it. Secret Service knew about him. They gave the guns back to his dad, which was idiotic, and the dad gave it to him. So it's about the mentally ill having guns, not about law-abiding citizens having guns. So you don't tell the law-abiding citizens you can't have guns, because right now that's the only way to separate yourself, protect yourself from that guy. I know that people say there's just too many guns, but I need a mathematical equation to tell me what too many is. Because if the amount of guns is directly correlated with violent crime, why is violent crime decreasing? Which means, to me, that it is correlated. It's inversely correlated.
Well, but I mean, the contrary argument would be that we've seen this style of gun, this AR-15 type assault rifle, used in the Texas church shooting, 26 dead. Las Vegas, 58 dead. Orlando, 49 dead. Katie, how do you respond?
Well, how did they stop the Texas church shooting? A guy went to his truck and got an AR-15 and stopped the massacre from occurring. So
no, I think the guy went away in his car, and they later traced him and shot him.
He got an AR-15 rifle out of his car, and he stopped the massacre from happening.
He didn't stop the massacre. The massacre had happened. You had 26 people dead.
He stopped the guy from continuing the massacre one. That is what happened.
Yeah, you went to the guns and ammo expert.
Yeah, but I'm saying the guy was in the car when he was shot. And I don't remember if he shot himself.
Let's go back to the issue at hand in the comments by the national mayor. The hero here is James Shaw, and we should be talking about him even more, the guy who rushed a shooter inside that restaurant and put his life on the line to prevent the shooter from, this mentally deranged man, from killing other people. It is extremely frustrating over and over again to see the government at a number of levels, whether it's the FBI, with all due respect, the Secret Service. I don't know what else they could have done. His dad is an idiot for giving him back the guns after they were taken away from him. There's nothing you can do to take that human error out of the equation, and it is infuriating to go back to the idea that regular, everyday Americans who just want to defend their families have to be paying the consequences for other people's, especially in government, bad behavior. And when you look at the issue as a whole, yes, AR-15s are used in a lot of these crimes, but handguns are actually used in the majority of mass shootings, according to the Department of Homeland Security. So you're vilifying a weapon instead of actually dealing with the issues that we've seen over and over again in terms of human failure. Evil cannot be legislated against, but we have to do something about not preventing people from getting firearms to defend themselves, but we have to do something about people who are screwing up every single time, and then regular people are blamed for their mistakes.
So, Jesse, one angle here is that the gunman, Mr. Reinking, had gone to the White House and said that he wanted to meet President Trump. And when asked, what's this about, because they were trying to get a sense of what he was doing, he said he was a sovereign citizen. And apparently this is some very far-right group, not to be confused apparently with militiamen, but a very far-right group. Is that your understanding? Do you know anything about this?
It's an extremist ideology where you don't respect the federal government, you don't believe in taxation, you don't believe in some private property, you believe only the property you own is sovereign and the government has no right to infringe upon it. I mean, it's a kooky philosophy, and he tried to talk to President Trump, but you don't do that by breaching the White House gate. And so they pick him up there. He had an AR-15. This guy's been in a public swimming pool. He came in with a woman's dress on, took the dress off, swam in the pool, then exposed himself to the lifeguards. He also left the house with a gun strapped, wearing a pink dress, threw it in the car, threatened somebody else. This guy was a danger to himself. He was suicidal. He obviously had mental illness. The fact that the father was given custody of the weapon, and then knowing all you know about your own son, to allow the guns to get back in the son's hand is a dereliction of duty. The guy's an idiot, I would agree, and you're exactly right, too. If this guy is now hanging around and the mayor's saying you got to ban guns, well, what's going to protect you from the Waffle House killer running around with a gun?
When law enforcement didn't.
When law enforcement didn't. So it was a total disaster by the mayor. He did not inspire any confidence at all. And again, I just to put another exclamation point on it, Shaw, if anybody has not seen that video of the press conference where he explains step by step how he neutralized the shooter, it's an amazing story.
Fantastic,
It's fantastic. Now,
we got some very good coverage, yesterday. But again, you see the narrative then shifts quite conveniently to ideology and just a political blindness, and they try and blame it on the gun, But this also is about human error and failures to catch and failure to act in an appropriate way. The father should have culpability here. If you know your child, your son, your relative, your neighbor, your coworker has a problem, is mentally ill, then step up, say something, notify authorities, and most certainly do not give them the weapon back. That is where this failed here. And also the sheriff is, misguided in the situation. He's trying to be, politically astute and say the right things. But, the right things are said after you investigate everything, get all the facts out. But there was clear demonstrative evidence of mental illness that played a huge role in this shooting and what happened.
Didn't you think Taylor Swift was stalking him or something like that?
Blame it on Taylor. Remember, it's very similar to the Jodie Foster, case, and with Ronald Reagan, and saying, that he was obsessed with her. So now they're bringing up Taylor
But here's
Swift.
the thing, guys. Even as you're talking about this, most people with mental illness are not the ones who commit these crimes, and you're focusing on mental illness.
No,
the fact is,
hang on,
President Trump is the one who vetoed or undid a regulation that President
This is not
Obama had
true.
put in place to try to limit the access that the mentally ill have to guns.
That's erroneous.
Yes.
Incorrect.
All right, so we're going to stop here for a second and take a look at the White House, where French President Emmanuel Macron is about to arrive. There you can see President Trump and Melania Trump, the First Lady, standing. I guess they're standing there on the East Wing awaiting the French president's arrival. I am looking forward to the first state dinner in the Trump presidency. It will be held for Macron, who treated the president like a king when he went to France. Here's Macron now, it looks like, about to step out of his car. There he is.
How long is that handshake going to be?
They had a famous handshake. And of course, Mrs. Trump is in charge of that first state dinner, Kimberly.
Yes, that's the tradition, and so she will be, obviously we'll get some news and some bit out of it in terms of how it went and it was handled, and I'm sure they'll talk about the decorations.
Right, but what's news there is that she didn't hire a consultant to do it. Mrs. Trump, who has a great deal of fashion experience, is taking that responsibility herself.
Okay, well, she has fashion experience and she has good taste in general. And so she's quite elegant. She speaks multiple languages. So she's an amazing representative for the United States, and she should be commended. She didn't waste government money, did she? She's doing it herself. God
speaking
bless
of
her.
that, I was really impressed with CNN's coverage of the Barbara Bush funeral when they focused on the fact that Melania was smiling.
Yeah,
did you cover
that was
any?
really
Did you
nice
see
of
any of
them.
that?
Yeah.
It was just completely tacky.
Wasn't President Obama taking a selfie at the Mandela Memorial? I remember that too. I don't think they said anything about that.
Let's take a break here. Kanye West did something very controversial again. He's backed a Trump supporter and taking on anyone giving him heat for it. That's next.
We come together, 'cause opposites attract, and you know, it ain't fiction, just a natural fact. We come together, 'cause opposites.
Here comes the
Kanye West caused a stir this weekend by tweeting praise of black conservative Candace Owens. The vicious smears that followed from leftists proved his point. The thought police want to suppress freedom. Writer Touré condemned West for liking someone with, quote, anti-black positions, a cowardly jab at Ms. Owens for daring to speak up. Joy Reid mocked those lauding Kanye's bravery, revealing her own bitter jealousy of Owens' fearlessness. Yeah, Tom Arnold. He unleashed a sexist attack on Candace. If he were a conservative, he'd be frog marched into the sea. We can't even show you that tweet. Here's Candace on Fox and Friends discussing the vitriol.
Well, I think it's pretty typical of the left. The truth is that the left wants to strap black people to this idea that they are victims. That's what it comes down to. They do not want black people focused on their futures. They want black people focused on their past. They like black people to be government dependent. They don't like to see black people that are free thinkers and are independent. And I think that's what Kanye West and myself represent to the black community, and that makes them very nervous.
So these attacks on her prove that what Kanye did was a big deal. He challenged the mob. He knew that tweet would attract the pitchforks, but he did it anyway. West sacrificed himself to the mob to show that it's possible and inspirational. As for the attacks, the goal is to stigmatize, because smears always shut down debate. And West must be punished too, for the strategy is to ruin everyone by connection. If you like Candace, you're worse than Candace, when in reality both transcend the orbit that their critics still live in. Kanye's extra dangerous to the left. For blacks leaning right, he's confirmatory. They got to shut him down. And he didn't even endorse Candace's beliefs, just her guts. In attacking him, they're attacking the very concept of free speech. Because there's nothing scarier to a leftist than a free thinker. West is one, so is Owens. Some network should hire her. So, Katie, I want to read you a couple of Kanye's tweets.
Which I probably retweeted a few of them.
Yeah. Self-victimization is a disease. Demonization has metastasized. We have freedom of speech, but not freedom of thought. to paraphrase the whole Matrix thing, I think he's taken the red pill, right?
Yeah, I think that maybe is what has happened here.
Yes.
But when he says, I like how Candace Owens thinks,
Yes.
the way the left has responded to this with the thought police and the aggressive nature of what they've been saying, you're a terrible person, I can't believe you do this, you're a traitor, horrible threats, quite frankly, against Candace Owens for what she said, they're proving his point. They're proving exactly what he's saying about the fact that there's no diversity of thought, that we can't have a diversity of opinion, that people can't be who they are. And the problem for the left is when people like Candace Owens speak out, they debunk the narrative that you have to be all about identity politics, that Republicans hate you because you have a certain color of skin, that they don't like you because you're a woman. So she is a threat to them. And clearly she's getting a lot of attention, which is a very good thing.
You know, Kimberly, he also just tweeted a ton of my hero, Scott Adams videos. So it's kind of all coming together, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yes.
For you.
For me. I'm in the hole of the hole? No, the
eye of the storm.
The eye of the storm. Yes.
Oh my God, don't be a weatherman.
There's the hole.
The AccuWeather Center just crashed and burned. Now, let me tell you something. I really like Candace Owens. I think she's fantastic. I'm speaking with her at the Young Women's Leadership Summit in Dallas in June. You know, I think you have to be fearless. Like, as a Latina Hispanic woman myself, people try to criticize me. They say, "Why are you so conservative? What's wrong with you? You know, can't think for yourself, etc." And I said, "These are my thoughts. These are my opinions. These are my beliefs based on my life experience." And I think it's so courageous when you're able to come forward and step up and say what you think and what you mean, especially in the minority community where people want to prejudge you, categorize you, label you, and put you in a certain category and say, this is how you should think, this is how you should feel, this is how you should vote, this is where you should put your money, et cetera, based on perhaps what they think is their prejudged determination of where you belong, essentially like in a box. They want to put people in categories and boxes instead of allowing them to be individuals and expressive. And it's extra when, you're a woman and sticking up for these, let alone, a minority or a Latina or a Black female in America.
To her point, Kimberly's point, Juan, don't you think that we've been for many years in this prison of two ideas, whether it's left or right, Republican, Democrat, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, that these are examples of people stepping out of that polarity and saying, I don't have to be that way. Shouldn't we be encouraging that more?
It is. It's a reality. It's not, and it doesn't apply to this case because Candace Owens is someone who, is taking money from the NRA for her Turning Point organization. And, therefore the question arises, are you simply endorsing it because that's who your patron is? Or someone who has done business and appeared on InfoWars, the Alex Jones site. And again, it raises lots of red flags, I think, for people on either side because, Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist and all the like. And so he is the one of these now retweeting, oh, yeah, we love Candace. Well, wait a sec. So in other words, when the far right gets a black voice that's saying, hey, you know what, we disagree with some of the orthodoxies on the left, they raise her up and celebrate. Oh, we found a hero. She's a free thinker.
So you think she's an imposter?
I don't know what she
called her far right. You called her far right.
You're suggesting
You're smearing her, basically.
I'm not smearing her. I'm saying there are legitimate reasons to ask questions, and you guys want to ignore all these questions and simply celebrate her like a free thinker. This is not Tom Sowell. Let me just tell you.
We are not necessarily the first ones to celebrate her as a free thinker. That was Kanye West.
Right. Oh, that's why we're doing this segment. The same guy who you put down when he said that George W. Bush was going after black people.
I never put him down, but Kanye has evolved because I suggest you read some of these tweets. The man is a modern-day philosopher.
Oh, yeah, he is.
People on the right and the left agree.
It's very convenient.
A lot of good things
very
about
convenient,
human development.
Jesse. Very
not convenient.
Convenient. After Kanye said his thing about President Bush, you were, what a racist, crazy.
We weren't on the air. I wasn't there.
It was very cool to hate on Kanye for a real long time.
I'd like to hear what Kimberly has to say.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it.
Girl power. Court.
The comments that you made, I think, Juan, are intended or not, were disrespectful to her because she is. No, let me finish. She is a woman. She is a free thinker. She's independent. She's well educated. And you suggested that she was transactional, that she would just foster thoughts and opinions and viewpoints based on currency exchange, for example.
I don't know.
We got to go.
Believe
it or not, we have to move away from this really boring argument to look at, I think President Trump is, what is he, planting a tree? Okay.
He's walking.
So, producers, fill me in on what's going on here, and I would be happy to.
I think they're in the Rose Garden. That looks like the Rose
Oh,
Garden.
okay. We're gonna get some
Maybe
questions.
not, or it
President
could be
Trump
one of the lawns.
with Melania, the first lady. and
So reporters are
Macron.
going to start asking them questions as they plant a tree.
Oh,
I believe that's a shovel.
Greg was right.
We're going to get some experts here to, yes, I'm being told it's a shovel.
How do you say shovel in French?
I have no idea.
That's the
He
most
should do
important.
more
Le Cheval.
breaking news.
By the way, really breaking news is
Le
reported.
Cheval.
So
Here we go.
they are on the south lawn of the White House right now.
There you go. Ditching the dirt.
So there.
CNN saying Trump is digging himself out of a hole.
No.
No, they're saying that he's going to put Macron in it.
He's
yeah.
going to jump in. No, so what you
That's the
had was-
biggest hole I've ever seen. That's what Trump will
This is the
say.
first event for the French president in Washington. Later tonight, first they're going to tour the White House, but then later tonight they will have a tour of American monuments in Washington before ending up at Mount Vernon for dinner. And of course, the relationship between France and the United States quite historic, and they're going to have a meal that emphasizes French and American fusion cuisine, something that I know Kimberly would love.
Yes, I would. And like he's
A Royal
mentioned
Mac.
earlier, the first lady putting on the whole dinner, choosing everything herself, not even hiring an outside, expert to consult on it. And this is very symbolic. This is the first state dinner, and choosing France to be there. And Macron is very symbolic. And he has said, listen, you need an ally. We are an ally with the United States. You saw him do some of the Sunday news talk shows, including with
the handshake.
Chris Wallace here on the Fox News channel. And the two of them getting along very well. This is important. It's a strategic partnership as it relates to Europe, and they face some of the same terrorism problems that we have faced on our own soil domestically, like what happened at the Bataclan. So they have a lot to talk about.
They're going to talk about trade. I think that they have some differences over trade. They have big differences over the Iran nuclear treaty, which Macron wants to be continued. And, of course, President Trump, will have to make a decision early May as to whether or not to buy in.
Yep, and also Trump got us out of that horrible climate deal, which I think was a Paris climate deal, right?
It was.
Yes.
He wouldn't be the president of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Paris.
All right. Glad we dumped out of that great debate. Next, President Trump taunts the DNC for its collusion lawsuit against his campaign. Right back.
Well, DNC Chair Tom Perez is defending a lawsuit against the Trump campaign and Russia.
We don't know when Director Mueller is going to act. And so this notion, and again, I don't want to ask him when he's going to act. And so we have to protect our rights. But secondly, we've done our homework. Over the course of the last year, we have seen, I think, a mountain of evidence of collusion between the campaign and the Russians to basically affect our democracy. I'm punching back not only for my colleagues, I'm punching back for democracy. That's what we believe in as Democrats. Elections should be fair. I understand people may agree and disagree, but you know what? We're fighting for them.
Kimberly, Mr. Perez wants a jury trial for this.
Yeah.
What are his odds?
Well, let's post it. Zero shot of that. I mean, look, but he's quite earnest and sincere in his total disregard for the president and for the president winning the election and being in the Oval Office. He is playing strong and aggressively to his base. That's what they want to hear on the far left. So he's got to go with that sort of mantra, that rhetoric, et cetera, to be able to kind of hold his position, his place. And he's trying to drum up support for midterm elections. And that's what this is about, hence let the games begin.
Greg.
You know what? This guy should sue the moon while he's at it because he keeps howling at it. They should actually do the right. You know what they should sue? Anthony Weiner. He caused Comey to do the honorable thing and sound the alarm about the classified info on his filthy, filthy laptop. That's the person that helped elect Donald Trump. Wasn't Russia. It was Anthony Weiner. And thank God for Anthony Weiner.
He was
No
like
one
a
has
sleeper
ever said
cell.
that before.
I know.
Juan, what's your response? Do you support the lawsuit or no?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because you know what?
Of
President Trump isn't doing anything to stop this from happening in the midterms or 2020s. And the question is it going to happen again? And you would hope that all of us as Americans would say, we don't want Russia interfering in our election.
Jesse, you have 2 seconds.
Obama never helped at either one. No, the Democrats have nothing left. They have no leadership. They have no money in the bank. All they have are boycotts, protests, and lawsuits.
Yeah.
And they're broke, and this is a fundraising ploy,
what it is.
And it's probably not even going to work.
I don't know how they're going to pay for it.
And now we're going to get all the discovery on the other side. They're going to go, okay, get it over on the other side.
Let's depose Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Well, moving on
DWS.
to more important things,
Yes.
maybe. It's a boy. Will and Kate introduce us to their new little prince up next. Yay!
Time now for the absolute cutest edition of Kimberly's Royal News. Yes. Prince George and Princess Charlotte of Britain are now the proud siblings of a new baby brother. The world met the little prince earlier today, and he is unnamed for now. Perhaps they will consider the fine names of Greg, Juan, or a dark horse, Jesse. Fantastic. You know, this is not easy to balance. It's quite heavy. It's my Christmas present from Juan from years ago. So this was quite spectacular. Everybody loves a royal baby. They came out today. They both look absolutely fantastic. You can't even believe that she just had a baby, and I wonder what they're going to name, but they've been quite busy, Katie.
They've been very busy. She's amazing. She's beautiful. She wore that dress as a tribute to Princess Diana and her second child, I believe. So it's very sweet, and we wish them all the health and love in the world.
Absolutely. Skipping Greg. Jesse.
Well, I studied really hard for this segment because I think it has a lot of impact on regular Americans. The only thing I could come up with that was insightful is if you're the third son, you're the third in line for the throne, that's got to be the sweet spot. No pressure being the first in line. The second, you know, anything could happen to your older brother. Third, I mean, you can do whatever you want, you can misbehave, but you still have the trappings of the royal family.
You really did think about this.
I did. I think
this
if I was to be born into a royal family, third, I'd go third.
Okay, so you would want to be
no pressure.
Third.
No pressure at all.
That's the way you roll. No pressure, but all the benefits.
All the
okay,
benefits.
perfect.
Wait a minute, you are the first son.
Yeah, but I'm not
He
royalty.
doesn't like it.
Oh, no, we think of you as well.
What would you want to be? Which one? The first, the second, or the third?
Well, I guess you want to be the guy, right? Take on, you know, big shoulders, take it. You know, so this weekend was big for me because I heard that my first son is going to, and his wife are going to have a baby. So for me, this is such great. I mean, it's wonderful. You got to look at it just as family. Even if they weren't royals, congratulations.
God bless. That's the thing. It brings us all together, right? Why not? You want to be happy for people.
And to tear us apart, here we go, Greg.
So, Greg, Greg, who has the utmost respect for the crown.
Yeah, I just would like to offer support to everyone at home who must endure these stories as if royalty reproducing is somehow an achievement.
As some people would say.
Royals,
Make him kneel. Make him
Please,
kneel.
Greg, I want you to kneel before me now, okay?
He is kneeling.
I am kneeling.
Oh, I
don't have to kneel. I'm standing.
Oh, God. Perfect. Kind show, isn't it? One More Thing is up next.